I'm Benoit-Bird, a biological oceanography professor in the College of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences at Oregon State University. I study how the spatial patterns we see so commonly in the ocean come to be and why they matter. I'm interested in how animals make a living, how they find their food while avoiding becoming someone else's dinner. And I do this primarily by using sound, specifically sonar. Sonar works by sending out a pulse of sound in a number of different pitches or frequencies. That sound bounces off things in the habitat like the seafloor or these dolphins. In the case of the dolphins, all of the different frequencies bounce back relatively evenly, so the signal we get back looks very much like the signal we sent out. If that sound, however, had bounced off of the squid, we would have seen that only the lowest frequency, that's shown here in red, would bounce back very strongly. We can contrast this to the krill that the squid are eating, and in this case we would only have gotten echoes back at the highest frequencies, here shown in purple and green. So the different signatures of these animals in the sonar helps us to identify them and estimate their density and biomass. We can also look at the behavior of individual animals and, most interestingly, look at the interactions between different species. I've used sonar to study how marine birds called murres find patches of krill in the Bering Sea, looked at how sardines forage on zooplankton in Monterey Bay, California, and studied the ecology of Humboldt squid in the Sea of Cortez. Since I was a graduate student, I've been studying the nearshore pelagic ecosystem around the islands of Hawaii. There, spinner dolphins feed on small fish, shrimp, and squid that come up to the surface each night. And we wanted to know how these large, energetic predators manage to make a living while eating such small prey. It turns out that they do this by feeding in groups to herd their prey into really dense patches. So this visualization shows how the dolphins work together to herd their prey. What you see here is a group of 20 individual dolphins, and you can see first that they're paired up, and as they move forward swimming up and down, they're basically bulldozing fish in front of them. They then form a circle around this really dense patch they've just created. And individual dolphin pairs take turns swimming into this circle to feed on the tiny lanternfish. We're now learning that the behavior of the fish that the dolphins feed on is driven by patches in the plankton, and starting to understand how those patches in the plankton are driven by the environment. So we're putting this all together to understand how this ecosystem works. It's really fascinating and lets us explore animal behavior, oceanography, and foraging ecology while developing new sonar tools. Studies like this are helping us to understand why animals are where they are in the ocean and how they cope with the variability in their resources that is so common. My first research was for my science fair project nearly 2 decades ago. I worked at Mystic Aquarium studying the sounds that their dolphins made in captivity. It doesn't seem like a huge leap to see how I went from my Connecticut Science Fair days studying the acoustics of dolphins to my work today. But what you may not see is just how important that experience was to helping me find my career path. My research project taught me a lot about sound and the techniques we used to study it, but the fair itself opened my eyes to turning science into a career. The judges who volunteered to talk to you during the fair come from a variety of professions, but they are working scientists. Since I was the first member of my family to be heading off to college, those conversations at the science fair were my first exposure to college professors. Before that, I had no idea that they spent much of their time learning new things about the world, exactly what you have all done to get here. At the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair, I received a special award from the Acoustical Society of America for my project. The judge who represented the ASA became my undergraduate research mentor, in part as a result of our conversations at the fair. The science fair experience and the work that led up to it reshaped my future. Congratulations to each of you on becoming finalists. I know how much work it took to get here. While some of you will receive explicit recognition for your work tonight, the process of scientific discovery has its own rewards, many of which you have already experienced. Whatever your future path, I hope your research fuels a passion for exploration that will be lifelong.